Hi everybody, Mark Cleghorn here, and welcome to another Academy Live. Today we're talking about mirror lighting in boudoir, but you could use it in pretty much everyday photography. If we just give you a quick glimpse at the screen 5, you can see really what we're going to be talking about today is moving from a diffused light to a sunlight if you've got the ability with the sunlight, so it's come back into studio. So if you're not sure who the Photographer Academy is, we're an online training resource for photographers. We're now in our 13th year. We've got over 3,000 films on our website, ad-free of course. But in addition to the 3,000, there's probably about another 2,000 films that we've deleted off the site during the course of 13 years to make sure things are current and so on with it. Anyway, today we're talking about the amazing little mirror and how it can really have a kind of an effect within your business of portrait photography, whether you're photographing food photography or in this case we're talking about boudoir today, yeah? It's a good job we preempted dull day because I said to Brandon, our video guy, excuse the horn going off in the background, but basically I said to Brandon, if we're going to do this live and it's not a sunny day, we're going to be stuffed. We're going to fuss around actually then using studio flash or speedlight flash or whatever it would be and things really. So hence we're basically, we pre-recorded just a little bit so you can still have the full training as it were. Right, remember we're live, okay? So let's get questions in as we're going through. Let's talk about the set first, all right? Basically, we're working in our amazing kind of main window set as far as the church window is concerned. We've just got a basic chaise with some netting, a kind of a flower wall, a mirror, and a kind of a screen there to actually kind of get some great backgrounds and everything else with it. But as far as the images are concerned, what you're actually going to see is basically a little bit of video where we kind of moved from the kind of the boho boudoir into a little bit more fashion boudoir. Okay, so if we kind of just go to the film and we'll have a little look at the kind of the setup, you'll see that basically we're working in the window. Model Kelsey is laying on the chaise in a similar kind of position as you'd expect any model. But we've changed from the kind of the boho boudoir with the kind of the daisy headband and a different kind of costume that she had on, things really. And we've gone to this kind of real dress, but she's in this kind of muted light, very, very similar that I'm having here. Now, because I'm based in South Wales in the UK, there is no guarantee we ever get sunshine. If we'd filmed this on Monday or Sunday, yes, we could have done it live, but however, guaranteed it hasn't come on. So really what we're looking at is a diffuse light source. Now, basically, to kind of get an idea of when I can do this technique and when I can't, I know that from around about 1:30 in summer months till about 7 o'clock at night, I can basically use a mirror within the actual scene to create a kind of an extra light and things really. A bit like I'm kind of popping on an LED light or a small little speed light flash or whatever it is. But in this case, we're on about using just the likes of the little mirror and things really. So as far as the exposure is concerned, when I'm shooting and shooting at speed, what I don't want to do is actually burn anything out. So I tend to actually ensure that we're basically going to have detail in the highlight. That's the main thing. And then as far as the kind of the overall image, as the sun kind of goes in and out just that little bit, we're basically actually just running with it and we'll fix in the post-production. So if we just kind of go to the setup now with the mirror, we're going to cut away in fact soon to actually look at the images and we'll go through a bit of a slow process to look at them. But what we have done is we've just made this film go live on the Photographer Academy today. So I thought we'd give you a little bit of a kind of an insight of what's going on. Brandon, can we get that video running just so we can kind of show the little bits of sunlight being used here with the mirror. Now, as you're seeing it, I'm just using a cheap as chips mirror that you can pretty much get in the likes of IKEA or whatever it would be. But then I'm going to move into a slightly bigger one. So this is about 6 by 4 in size, the one we're using at present. And then I'll kind of use one that is about almost double the size, about 9x6 as far as the image, and one that has a handle so we can basically then control the actual positioning of where the light, and obviously when we start to work closer to the window here, it's harder to work the light, as it were. And the reason being it's harder to work the light is basically it's a lot easier to work against it than it is with it. And then eventually in this film we kind of end up using a reflection. So Kelsey's using the mirror not for the kind of the mirror lighting technique I'm on about now, but she's using the mirror as a part of the set and the scene. And what I'm doing is working against the light to actually pop some of it in. Now, if we had some strong sunlight in here today, or if we were able to really darken the studio down a long way, then any light kind of popping onto this would actually do the job and things really, okay? So as far as the kind of the basics is concerned, we're talking about the ambient light in the diffusion, we're talking about sunlight and capturing that sunlight on the mirror, reflecting the sunlight onto the exposure of the flesh. That is the new working exposure, and then from there we're basically allowing ourselves to kind of create a great variety and flow of images, and that's what I want to show you today is really the flow, okay? So let's walk across to the edit. Remember, we're live, so questions. Okay, you can see we're working, all right? So basically a quick repainting of the flats, the new flats. So basically the white and the black. So we usually work with white on one side, black on another. We do, or we used to have a few flats which were 18% grey, but we're not there. So you get to see a little bit of mess that's kind of around. But let's get across towards the desk set. And kind of up on screen, you're going to see that you've got that diffused light and the sunlight as well with it and things really, okay? So image on the left is basically, her head is facing towards the window, so technically the light is coming in from about the 9 o'clock position around towards the 10 o'clock position, so it's kind of coming against her. Whereas the lighting on the right hand side, even though she's almost in exactly the same position, we're using a catch of sunlight to be able to actually kind of point it down actually on towards the face and things really. So once we kind of accept the kind of the way it's all going to work and so on with it, we can then actually kind of color balance for it and everything else with it and things really. Okay, so I've got it in two halves for you. So we can either look at the boho boudoir that is basically, remind me later. We can either look at the boho boudoir with a mirror light that is finished. I actually did 3 quick finishes today, so just so you could see it. I've gone for my kind of normal kind of colouring. Then I've gone for a desaturated colour. And then I've also gone to a grainy soft. So I've kept as much of the colour there before, but I've just added in some grain and everything else with it and things really. So we'll have a little look at those now in a minute and things really, okay? So again, our main concern is what are we looking at? Let's look at the raw files. Remember that I shoot a JPEG and a raw file. And basically, if I set my camera on to black and white mode, what you would be seeing if it was the JPEG on camera kind of image, you would see basically that would be then black and white. But of course, the raw file exists in color no matter what. So as soon as Adobe sees it in the likes of Bridge, it basically converts it back to a color image, and then I can actually apply the kind of the look and the feel that I want to the image no matter what. So we're looking at 104 images in total, and we can see that from the running down the side here in the star ratings, and obviously a total down at the bottom here. I kind of star rate to obviously kind of get rid of images to begin with. Let's just get rid of the rubbish, as it were, or the not so good. And I would really want to delete those. So at this point, the 45 images that you might think are still quite nice, let me just go through. These are the ones we're going to delete, okay? So If it's the first time that bridge is seeing them, it builds a cache for the high the preview with it. So you're getting an idea of the shots. You can see now in a minute where the mirror lighting, it's coming in. Now it's coming in for the first time here, okay? So then kind of following it through and being used in either a subtle way or a dramatic way, including when we get to the mirror. All right, so I don't want these files, okay? I've done the pre-selection. If you haven't watched our flow before, you can go and watch it in one of our Photoshop films. Look, I remember we're live, so please get the questions in as we're going, and we can answer anything that you want. And fingers crossed, we'll be able to shoot this style of session for you live during the next 4 to 6 weeks during the summer months, when pretty much I can guarantee to get some sunlight here on a Thursday. We might have to slightly tweak our shooting schedule to ensure that we can actually do the mirror kind of shoot for you. Okay, other images that are 1 star, these means they're okay, but they're still not images that I'm bothered about. Do I want to delete them? No, I don't. The reason being is that they might be useful of some kind. But you can see the effect of the kind of the mirror being used, yeah? So in this case, we're just going to uncheck the 1 star, and really what I'm looking at is the 3 stars. I've 5-starred a few images here just so we could actually see the comparisons. So if we look at 3 different settings for a minute, the image on the left-hand side is the basic color finish. The image in the middle is a desaturation and a soft and a grain. I'll show you how to do that as well. And then the image on the right-hand side is a soft, but it has all the color still within it and things. The orange color, if you don't like it, we'll show you how to actually get that quickly kind of fixed as well. Obviously, if you're shooting in winter months, sorry about the dogs next door. If you can hear the barking at all, I'm not sure if you can, Brandon, but hey ho. As far as the colouring is concerned, if you're shooting in winter months, you might get more orangey kind of tone, especially shooting at the end of the day, whatever it would be. Right, enough about that. Let's just kind of work on our 3-star images. Let's just have a quick look at them, all right? So I'll just make them full screen, and we'll just quickly flick through them every 2 seconds or so, just so you can kind of absorb the images. And what I wanted to kind of show you was the flow. So you can see instantly, even though we're talking today about lighting with the mirror, not all of these images get going straight away with the mirror lighting. We're going to start to bring it in here, okay? And you see that on the film on the Academy as well, where I make that decision now to actually bring that little bit more of that kind of glamour lighting in. And if we come back to screen, it's beautiful. You can see now it's much more fashion, a lot more kind of fashion glamour to kind of a little bit more advertising kind of quality and things really. And you've seen us build these small little sets. It doesn't take us long, but obviously when you're working in natural light, you're under controls of God, as it were. Whereas if we're working in studio flash, we're under the controls of electricity. So again, it's just thinking about what you're trying to achieve and kind of putting the light in where you want it to go. So those are the images that we want to work on. If I was having to do this with studio flash, I would try and have, obviously, ignore this image, but if we were looking at this kind of shot here, if we were trying to mimic this, we'd need, obviously, an ambient fill within the room, and then we would also then need a kind of a spotlight that is either going to pop onto the mirror, reflect from the mirror onto the model, and then obviously we can pretty much control everything as we're going. All right, so let's take a look at the flow. Now remember, the first thing that we have to do once we've made that choice is Control A to select all images. Then I usually go through the batch renaming as such really. Let's give it its number 1, and this is, so it's Kelsey and it's Boho Glamour. And underscore, and then it's the date. I think these were done on the 10th of February, so it'd be 02/10/21. And just going from there, rename, that renames everything there in order. And then basically I just need to go to tools and then replace my metadata. This is what puts the copyright within the image and things really. Up until that point, I'm vulnerable for theft, of course. But once we we can see that the IPTC core is filled in, and then all I need to go in and add in any more description or whatever I want to do with it and things really. Okay, once that's done, I can now bring them into the RAW. So Control R, bringing our images into the RAW window as such. If you work in Lightroom, Bridge and Camera Raw, pretty much very, very similar. Everything is free as far as the Adobe package is concerned. I just find that the way that I work with ACR from within Bridge is quicker for me than Lightroom, but that's just a personal thing, yeah. So within here, the first thing that I would want to do, in fact, is just select all, so Control A, and go up to and choose one of the looks and the feels that I want to the images. So you can see already here, I have kind of 3 basic looks with my boudoir if I wanted to apply those straight away. I don't today. I want to actually kind of work that through with you no matter what. So what's the kind of things that we want to do besides for obviously my phone going off, besides for the variety and the styling that we want, we've kind of got to look at some fixing as well. But if we kind of go up to the top here, there's going to be a basic fix, which would be a studio fix. And as far as the the basics is concerned, I go for a contrast of 8. I go for a highlight of -5. We're going to a shadow of 8. We're going to a whites of -5. We're going to a blacks of a -8. And that gives me my basic contrast level. Coloring, when it's Studio Flash, I can hit the 5600 straight away. Pretty much that's my basic coloring that I really want. There's no reason why I can't set the color balance, but obviously it's trying to actually maintain all the colors. But if the colored light hitting her is different, of course it can't correct that as a basic fix. It's only fixing the white light. Or we kind of go up into the white picker and we go, okay, choose that white on the blouse, and then we neutralize everything straight away. So that's that white picker just near the custom color, and then we can go into here. So as I start to work through the different images and I start to work away from the image, we're basically going to kind of have a different kind of color balance. However, if we kind of like an overall warmth, add it back in. So in this case, we want to actually bring this little bit of yellowing, orangey kind of sunlight kind of lovely feeling to the image, no matter what and things really. So when we kind of work through, let's just, these kind of images, they need to be fixed because she's looking away from the light, and we are going to overexpose the image. You're going to go, oh my God, what shall I do about my highlights and my whites and everything else with it? And basically, the first thing I'd say is, shut up and get on with it, okay? So we have rules, but rules are there to be broken as well. And even though I go through about critical exposure with a meter, yes, we've done all that beforehand, but then the creative element for you is basically, it's knowing when to actually break rules and things really. In this case, you know, you've either got to add in a reflector or a flash or whatever it is, but it still looks pretty great. But because she's looking away, do I have to actually have the face lit, or is this kind of a faceless image, or is it a half kind of exposure? That's really just down to you, of course, and things really. All right, I would say that this kind of image needs a little bit of help in the kind of the shadows, and it will a little bit of help in the exposure, and then the highlights and the whites back as well. This kind of image is pretty cool, but again, I'd just probably go in and actually just crop some of it out. The bottom of the leg is no kind of benefit. While I'm in the crop mode, I can kind of rotate these. I wouldn't necessarily rotate this image to get it straight. So if I press A, it brings up the straighten tool. If I drag it down the actual window, you might be able to see at the top, we've kind of cropped off now some of the window, and I can't get it back because I did that straighten tool, all right? So just pressing escape gets rid of that straighten or the crop change within it anyway. So basically we can kind of work on, and I can fix that in the likes of Photoshop if I've got to anyway. Just going through here then, we've got some nice image. I would say though that this image needs a bit of help. So this is where I would just go into the exposure. Let me just reset everything in there. just a little bit of an exposure just onto the face, and perhaps a little bit of contrast as well. Because she's looking at me, I'm going to do the same thing here. Yep. Not worried about the sun kiss. Now that's not a mirror on the face, that is the sun kiss. And that's the kind of time where I acknowledge that, yep, some accented light now will really have a big benefit to the images to give me this kind of glamour element. So you can see I'm kind of washing around the image itself, just adding that little bit of kind of highlight around her. If I kind of just do that a little bit too much, you can see what I'm doing. And then kind of going through. Now we've got the mirror. The mirror now, it's doing its job. It's kind of following through each of the images. As a rule though, all of my images in the boho kind of glamour still have a kind of a basic adjustment I should have done as far as the effects are concerned. I'd usually bring the vignette in just down a little bit, okay, just to pull it in on the edges. Now, as a rule with high key, of course, we wouldn't be vignetting a white edge to dark, but it's just the kind of the look and the vignette kind of styling that I like. For me, it might not be right for you and things really. So you can see I could go backwards there and basically make that kind of quick fixes. So yeah, we've got some really nice selection of images. If anything really needs a help, we've done that already. K is the adjustment brush, bring it up and live again. Just bring that exposure up once more, just on the face. And I can use my right arrow just to go through the images. So here it needs a basic adjustment. So as far as the basics are concerned here, just increasing the exposure just a touch. I don't think there's enough information on the bottom or the butt to really kind of make it an amazing image. I'm more interested in the reflection, but the reflection's out of focus. So is it an image I'm interested in? At this point, no. But we're going to get there. The first thing I will do though is just go and crop in just above that knee. I don't think the pose that I've given her is really anything special at all with it. But now we've got this really against the light. And if I just go in back into the basic adjustment, I pick that color picker again and I click onto the white, we're going to see now that the image of the very, very brightness of that yellow that was on the face before is now gone because we kind of just turn that back. Okay, so just think about what is the overall effect. If you now want to give things an effect, all right, this is down to what is right for your taste, your styling and everything else with it and things really. But if you like the kind of the boho, granular, the grainy film kind of element, this is where we just go back into the basics. And at this point, we will go into the effects and we would just go and add in the grain that is here, yeah. And how much grain, how long's a piece of string. Some of you like 3200 film, some of you like 400 film. So it's really down to you and things. But again, it's always about what is right for you and your style. But across the whole session, I like things to have the whole look so that it looks great in an album or whether it's in a print box and so on. The only other thing I would say is that for many of you, are going to knock the texture back to just take the sharpness away. Now, if you've watched me shoot the boho as far as the boudoir is concerned, you know I'm using a small piece of plastic on the front of the lens to knock back the quality anyway. So pretty much what you're seeing as far as the softness was basically as shot before we went live. Once that's done, of course, we just go in, select all the images and just actually start to process them. I may as well while we're here, and I can take questions and everything else with it. So MC images, we're into boho boudoir mirror lighting, new folder, and basically Kelsey mirror lighting boudoir. And JFR, remember JPEG from RAW, yeah, so that's that. Everything's got its kind of information in there. Let's just press save and that'll work away. Probably about 3 seconds tops per image, more like 1.5 on this PC in fact. Anyway, so that's it. So back into the set, we'll kind of look at that mirror. It's a good job we kind of preempted a dull session as far as the lighting was concerned. Otherwise this session would have been a disaster. At least we prepared for it. with all the weather and things. But we hope to actually bring you the live session very, very soon. But of course, you can whip over to the Photographer Academy and basically see it straight away. Questions there at all, Brandon? Anybody with us?
Yeah,
one question, go, bud.
So when you're metering for these kinds of shots, are you metering for the highlighted face?
Yeah, so when I'm metering for the shot, as soon as we start to work from ambient into the sunlight from the mirror, this now becomes the key light. And so we've got to go in there and basically expose it as such. Obviously, with a rule of thumb, you can kind of see how much it increases by. If you haven't got an assistant, I'll give the model or the client a meter and point it back towards me, and basically I'll get the mirror onto her, and then basically we'll get the working exposure. And then obviously if the sun goes in and out, kind of no different than if you're shooting on a wedding day and the sun goes in, and you know, you've got basically a behind the cloud exposure and a with full sun, and then between those two, as it starts to come in and out, if you've got one of those days of dappled light, where it comes in and out, you'll basically work between the two exposures, and I usually work just in shutter speed change. Okay with that?
Yeah, that kind of answers the follow-up to it. It was about using an alternate exposure for a different kind of look.
Yeah, so there's another question, that an alternate exposure for a different kind of look. Look, what I want to do is make sure I'm not throwing away valuable information in the digital file in the same way we would have worked with the transparency. Once that information is gone, basically it's gone. So we got about a 3/4 of a stop recovery in RAW. I know they say up to like 2.5 stops, whatever it is, rubbish, you know. We've got to really take control of our exposure in camera, slightly underexpose the image and bring it back. But if we can get to the correct exposure right off the kind of the nail, doesn't matter what ISO we use, we're pretty much going to minimize grain. Once we start to really underexpose or overexpose things, the overexposure, the problem is recovery of detail. Underexposure of the image, as we brighten it up, it basically starts to expose the grain more, so, or the noise more. Okay, so we're just trying to get that perfect exposure as we're going through it. Anything else there, Brandon? Look, guys, thanks for joining us live. If you joined us late, really what we've been doing is kind of looking at the sun-kiss kind of effect that we can get from the likes of a mirror, and how the difference going to between two different looks, where we've got a diffused kind of image, as you can see on the left hand side, and we've got this beautiful mirror light being used to actually create the next kind of effect and things really. Remember, the Photographer Academy is open 24/7. You don't have to be available for us live on a Thursday to be able to do it. We've got a special Saturday coming soon where we're pretty much going to be shooting boudoir little snippets live throughout the whole day with us and things really. So I believe that is next Saturday, the 12th, is it? Is that the right day? And we're kicking off by about 11 o'clock in the AM, and we're running right through till 5 o'clock with a whole different kind of variety of shoots, all based on boudoir again. Kelsey's back in with us, in fact, for the day. So if you get a chance to join us, we're not running live all the time. We'll just kind of do a quick introduction before we continue on to make the film for the Academy. But pretty much about every hour and a half, you're going to be able to join us live. Thanks. Remember, for as little as 59 quid, you can join the Photographer Academy for the year. That gives you a pro level, access to pretty much most of the films on the Photographer Academy. It's only the business films that you're really kind of not allowed to actually watch at the pro membership. But 99 quid will buy you a business membership for the year. It means you can watch everything. Pro membership will allow you to watch around about 3,000 films, as I said. And then basically the Academy membership is a lot cheaper, but it's basically, with the offer that we have running, it's worth actually just going straight to pro. Thanks for joining me live. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.